Hi friends, good evening. Welcome to our next tutorial on core Java. So in this today we will discuss about OOPS concepts. So last video we discussed about different program types, and that we discussed about this procedure oriented. Now today we'll discuss this object oriented. So how this object oriented we can deal, that we can discuss in detail here now. So what is object oriented? Object oriented programming language. So about this we'll discuss here today now. So what is object oriented programming language? The applications that are developed with help of objects and classes are said to be follow as object oriented concepts. So means simply we can say which programs or which language are developed, applications are developed by using objects and classes, that we can say as object oriented languages. Simply what is that? Objects and classes. Objects and classes which are following this, that we can say as a object oriented language. So examples for this is we know already, we are using regularly, that is Java, C++, .NET. These all are the major examples for object oriented languages. But here one thing is C++. C++ is a object oriented language, but according to the programming language expert, it is called as partial programming language, because some reasons. Means here Java and .NET poorly object oriented, but C++ is the partially object oriented. Why? Means there are a few reasons. Those we can discuss here now. The first reason for this is, in a C++ application we can write some code inside of class and some code outside of the class. Means first reason here, in a C++ some code will write some code inside of class and some code outside of class, inside or outside of class. So because of that is the reason we say we cannot, it's not a fully one reason. And second reason is, an application in C++ can be developed without following any object oriented concept also. Means without following OOPS also we can write program. So that is a second reason. And the third reason for this is, that is the friend function concept can violate or break any level of securities in data. So here one concept is there in a C++, that is a friend function. This can be violate or break any level of securities. Easily we can break securities. So because of that is the reason we are saying this C++ is the partially object oriented programming language. Then next, coming into the next point, the objects or classes are the fundamental concepts of OOPS programming. Object oriented programming means objects and classes, those are the fundamental things for to this. But first we can discuss about the object. So what is object? This everyone will know. Say, by saying that we can say simply, object is nothing but that is any entity that exists physically in the real world, which requires some memory, will be called as an object. Simple words, it we can say as the existing physical entity. I come with examples also. Just wait. So any entity that exists physically in real world, which requires some memory, will be stored called as a object. And every object will contain some properties and some actions. Every object must and should it contain some properties as well as some actions. The properties are the data. Properties are the data or information which describes the object, and they are represented by variables. So it can be represented by the variables and it can be described the data. And actions are the tasks or the operations performed by the object, and they are represented by methods. Yet some small relation that you can understand easily. See, just I repeat this, please listen carefully. So here the properties are the data. Properties are the data, means which we are using that data, which describes object, and they are represented by a variable which describes object, but that should be represented by a variable. And tasks, if any tasks or any actions are performing by object, and that should be represented by the methods. So here maybe your definition is clear, but once we'll see one or two example programs, then you can understand easily of this object. Again, when we are writing this other means next video program, I'll explain you again this words about this clearly. Object and methods, variables. This I'll show you in the next class clearly, so that you can understand easily on this. Okay, so that is the object. Then next here is we discussed about OOPs. Which are OOPs? That is objects and classes. So classes. So what is classes? A class is a collection of common properties and common actions of group of objects. Means simply we can say class is nothing but group of objects. In simple words, we can say the group of objects. So a class can be considered as a plan or a model or a blueprint of an object. It's simply the blueprint of object. For a class, we can create any number of objects. Without the class, object creation is not possible. Without class, we cannot create an object. An object is an instance of a class. Object is instance of class, means without class there is no object. So but it's a blueprint, or it should be the model, or it should be the plan. So in one class it should be number of objects should be there. And all the object oriented programming concepts are called from the real world. So these are the all called from the real world, object oriented concepts. From the human being lives, so the programming become very simpler. It should be very simpler. The programmer can understand the concepts easily to implement without any difficulties. So who are writing the program can easily understand. And the next step here is the design of OOPS concepts, means object oriented programming concepts, very strong and suitable to develop real and complex applications. So last time we seen this drawback here in project procedure oriented this. Using that we cannot build complex applications and real-time applications, but here we can do this. So here some of the things various objects concepts are. So we can means here there are three concepts in object oriented, and that first one is the encapsulation, So the next one is the inheritance. Third one is the polymorphism. So there are three concepts. One is the encapsulation, other is the inheritance, the last not the least, that is the polymorphism. So there are total three types of is there in a object oriented concepts. So here in the next video we'll discuss about these three: what is the meaning of encapsulation, what is inheritance, and what is polymorphism. Then it follows we'll discuss the few examples to understand of each concept clearly. Thank you for watching this. Please subscribe to get more updates. Thank you.